Hello, welcome back. In this video, I'll be turning some classic Disney villains into Hazbin Hotel sinners. I'll be showing you guys how I reimagined their appearances, the choices behind the designs, and of course, how they ended up in hell in the first place. So let's just get into it, starting off with Lady Tremaine and her daughters from Cinderella.
Girls, please. After all, we did make a bargain, didn't we, Cinderella? And I never go back on my word.
Right, so as you guys saw from that scene, there is definitely at least 3 antagonists in Cinderella, 4 if you count animals. Those 3 alone were basically the blueprint for emotionally abusive family dynamics in animated films, and Lucifer the cat was definitely a part of that chaos, so I thought it would be really interesting to turn all of them into cat demons. Starting off with Lady Tremaine, I gave her a sleek grey fur tone that mirrors Lucifer, since she's his owner and she kind of shares his energy. She's very cold, quiet, calculating. And you guys will see a bit later on when I draw her outfit. Her outfit is actually based on that dress she wore during the night of the ball. You know, the moment where she really cements her villainy. It's not an exact carbon copy. I did change some parts of it. The most noticeable part would be the length of the dress. If you guys remember from the film, and also somewhat historically accurate, their dresses are fairly long. It goes down to their feet, which makes sense, but for this particular dress, I thought a more fitting dress would be a bit more suitable. And when I mean fitting, I mean kind of like a figure hugging dress. It kind of makes a lot more sense in the context of Hazbin Hotel's design. I guess I could have given her a sort of mermaid dress where it does hug her figure, but then it fans out at the bottom part. But then again, it kind of defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do, which is to basically show off that she, has fur all over her body. She is basically a cat. She is one with Lucifer, not trying to make that weird or anything. For Anastasia, she is a tabby cat demon with her iconic pink dress and vibrant red hair. I kept her style quite playful but roughened up. For example, her dress is torn to reference the moment they destroyed Cinderella's gown. And you guys might guess I'll be doing the exact same for Drizella's design as well. It's a reminder that while she may have a redemption arc in the sequels, this design is based on the first movie, and in that one she was cruel, plain and simple. And Drizella had a bit more of a grumpy energy, so I made her into a dark grey cat. Again, you will see this a little bit later on. My video in here is a bit too slow, but she would be a dark grey cat with a shorter shredded green dress, almost similar to Anastasia, with a messy black hair. To be fair, she always struck me, Drizella is what I'm talking about, she always struck me as the more bitter of the 2 sisters, so I did kind of push that in this design as well. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys would notice, but her design is a bit more sharpened, a bit more rugged. But to be completely fair, what I am basing these designs off of is the first movie, so I'm not even considering Anastasia's redemption arc. And you know what though? Till this day, I am still very confused about the canon timeline of Cinderella's story, because as you guys know, there are 3 Cinderella stories. The first one, of course, is the classic. Second one, I'm not too sure about, just because it's all just a bunch of stories kind of wrapped up together. One of those stories being Anastasia falling in love with that baker. She went against her mother's wishes and I guess sort of abandoned her, and I would have thought that she lived her life with that baker, but then the 3rd film made it confusing. The 3rd film started off with the Prince and Princess Cinderella singing about how it's been a wonderful year, and then it cuts to a scene where Anastasia and Drizella are kind of moping around doing chores. They don't like that, but we also see a bit of Anastasia kind of singing about how she wants to fall in love. I mean, I thought she did. So what happened with that baker? What is the correct timeline? What is the canonized timeline? Because it doesn't really make sense. I mean, I do have a bit of a theory. Obviously Cinderella 1 happened first, then Cinderella 3 happened, where all the timeline kind of shit happened. And I'm guessing the fairy godmother made everything go back to how it was, and Cinderella 2 occurred, and that's how it would end. At least that's what my theory is. Maybe I've been reading or watching Cinderella wrong all this time, and I've just kind of made a big thing out of nothing. Anyways, yeah, all three of them are wearing this glowing green jewel that you guys will see. Tremaine is wearing it as a necklace, whilst the two sisters are wearing it around their waist. It's subtle, but it's kind of a way to link them symbolically with Lucifer. And as for why they would be in hell, well, you know, it's the emotional abuse, the manipulation, and the way that they treated Cinderella like property. I think that's enough. So yeah, hell does seem quite fitting for them.
Fun fact about Voodoo Larry. Can't conjure a thing for myself. Besides, you and I both know the real power in this world ain't magic. It's money. Buckets of it.
Next up is Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog, and out of all the Disney villains, Facilier is definitely the easiest to place in hell. I mean, he literally made deals with demons and, you know, tried to kill people to pay off his debt. So, I mean, I wanted to lean on the idea that he became something twisted by his own magic. So, I reimagined him as a voodoo doll. His outfit would still be a bit familiar, but there's a bit more tattered and uneven parts of it, like it's been worn throughout a few centuries of bad deals. Not gonna lie, now that I'm looking back at his design, it does remind me of the dolls that the other mother from Coraline has had. It is very eerie now that I'm looking at it. It reminds me of these La La Loopsy dolls I used to see back when I was a child. And if you guys don't know what La La Loopsy dolls are, I would say Google it up, just because they are quite freaky. They have this kind of uncanny valley feeling into them, and you know, he does kind of freak me out now that I look at his face, and I guess I did a good job on that design because it is a bit uncanny. He does look a bit creepy with those buttoned up eyes. One other thing you guys may also notice is that he has stitches around his mouth. It's to accentuate the voodoo doll kind of vibe I was going for, and it is very similar now that I think about it. It's very similar to what we see in Alistair whenever he does his kind of demon thing. Side run, I heard from somewhere in TikTok that Alistair is somehow involved in voodoo as well. I'm not entirely sure on that, just because canonically in the show we haven't really heard much about Alistair's background. So until I hear something about him in the show, about his background, I'm not entirely sure on that. But anyways, let's get back to Facilier. You might notice I added a few skulls around his design as well, just because his original design, you see that he has this skull symbol on his hat. So since I removed that from this design, I thought it would be better if I added the actual skulls instead. So you can see two of them on his hat and one of them on the tail of his blazer. So why would Dr. Facilier be in hell? Well, there's many reasons. There's always plenty of reasons when you're a Disney villain, but I think one of the main reasons would have to be his attempted first-degree murder of, I think his name was Mr. LaBouffe, Charlotte's dad. Not only that, but he did end up actually killing Ray the Firefly, so there are lots of good reasons why he would end up down there.
Her Grace, Her Excellency, Her Royal Majesty, the Queen of Hearts, and the King.
Right, so the last character we're going to be designing today would be the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. She's probably the most chaotic of the bunch. She's loud, aggressive, and constantly threatening execution over the pettiest things. To be completely honest, she is a very interesting character and has to be one of my favorite villains. And the reason why I say that is because typically a lot of the Disney villains we know are stoic and, importantly, they're calculative. A lot of their moves are strategized and intentional. For example, we even have someone like Hades who's extroverted, yet he is calculative. He planned for Hercules' defeat. We had Scar from The Lion King who sat patiently waiting for the right moment until he struck. And we had Jafar from Aladdin, who was the king's advisor or counselor, and once he had what he needed to go ahead with his plan to take over the kingdom, he struck. He was an opportunist. But the reason why I think the Queen of Hearts is different and why I find her to be quite an interesting villain is because she's none of that. She doesn't try to play hero. She doesn't try to manipulate anyone. As soon as we saw her enter the scene, we know who she is as a character, and she's not hiding that from anyone. The moment we saw her in the first 15 seconds, she wants to execute the 3 cards that painted her roses red. So unlike a lot of other villains in Disney who is more opportunistic, she's not really that type. She doesn't care about opportunity. She just shouts. She's just the queen. So for her Hazbin Hotel Cine version, I made it a bit more theatrical. So I've exaggerated some parts of her character. So for example, you could see slightly that her hair in the Disney version is in this layered bun. I really like that hairstyle actually. It looks really cool. So I wanted to exaggerate that, make it a lot bigger, a lot bolder, which is why you could see her hair is slightly strange. If you do zoom in a little bit, her hair is tied up in some sort of bun. It is a bit messy, and I kept that messiness in this character as well. Her dress is big and layered with, you guys will see this later on, but it's a harsh red and gold contrast with, of course, the heart motifs with the rough edges that, suggest that she's a bit rigorous in Hell Now. I just wanted to show that her dress is a bit tattered, but now that I'm looking at it, it's a bit too neat for my liking. Maybe I should have tatted it up a bit more, but I guess it works out. I wanted to give her some sharp edges to show that she's a very, aggressive character. And what you guys may notice here is that I've actually added a golden scythe to her character. This is a kind of nod to her catchphrase, off with their heads. I know that in executions you don't really typically use a scythe, but I wanted to associate that death part of her character to this Cine version. So that's it for this video. That's my take on 3 classic Disney villains that I've reimagined as Sinners in Hazbin Hotel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Which one was your favorite? Who do you want to see next? And I'm already thinking about doing Scar, Hades, and maybe Mother Gothel next time. So if you enjoyed this, feel free to like the video and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!